Ms. Foley, can you describe for us what lawfare is?
Lawfare is the use of legal processes, either civil or criminal, to go after a political opponent.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Critical Coverage Channel today. We dive into a major political scandal, how Democrats weaponized the legal system against President Trump. This is lawfare, using legal actions to take down a political opponent. What's happening should concern every American. Let's break it all down. Let's define what we're talking about. Lawfare uses legal mechanisms to target a political adversary. It's been used throughout history, but never on this scale in America. And the primary target? You guessed it, Donald J. Trump. Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, made history by indicting a former U.S. president. These so-called crimes were known for years and reviewed by federal prosecutors. If it wasn't a crime then, why now? It's about stopping Trump, not justice.
And Mr. Epstein, Alvin Bragg's 34-count indictment against President Trump was the first time a former president had been indicted in history. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But the facts of that case had been known for years. Isn't that also true?
Yes, and litigated.
And why did federal prosecutors then choose not to charge President Trump?
Obviously, they didn't think that the evidence substantiated any crimes.
Do we yet know what the underlying crime was that Donald Trump allegedly committed that was the basis for the convictions?
Well, obviously, the underlying New York criminal statute was interpreted broadly, but the supposition is that the president, through this alleged hush money scheme, was engaging in election crimes, and even, of course, the case directly referred to federal election crimes.
But what do you mean supposition? Didn't they have to prove that that's what he had done?
And of course, there was no unanimous jury determination on that. And in fact, there was, of course, no proof. The argument was there must have been some conspiracy with the Trump organization and others.
So they didn't prove the underlying crime, they just convicted him of something in state law. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would also note that that based off an executive action in New York, there was a stay of these types of indictments during COVID, and there was, of course, a very aggressive reinterpretation of a stay designed to protect criminal defendants in order to go after the president.
The pattern is clear. State and local officials, backed by biased media, are trying to take Trump out of the race. When was the last time a former president was dragged through the courts over technicalities? The hush money case, the documents case, the Georgia election case, they all have one thing in common: Democrats using the justice system to interfere in an election.
Have you ever seen anything like that New York case in your entire years of practice?
No, never.
Were you shocked at what happened in that court?
I was, as were many in the legal academy and many practitioners.
You know, I sit here and I listen to all of the caterwauling on the other side about Elon Musk. I don't know what he has to do with anything today. I listen to all of the accusations about Russia. Boy, I wish we could retire that word someday. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I listen to all of these, you know, this nonsense that is being spewed out there. And what I can't understand is why anyone wants to undermine our criminal or civil justice system in the manner that has been done over the last couple of years with lawfare, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Can you understand that, Ms. Foley?
No, absolutely not. Like I said, if they can do it, if one side can do it, the other side can do it too.
Isn't that kind of what happens in our political system?
Yeah, because it's politics.
It's politics,
Right,
that's
but
right.
politics and law should be different.
Don't you think that most of the American people understand what happened in these cases? Do you really think, does anybody really think that anybody was confused or that we couldn't figure this out or we didn't even know exactly what was happening with these cases in New York and the Fani Willis cases? We all knew what was happening, right? It was to stop him from running for president. Pretty simple to figure out, isn't it? Isn't that a classic example of lawfare? Is that what we want our justice system to turn into? Again, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, is that what our Constitution is here for? Mr. Terwilliger, do you think that that's a good use of our criminal justice system?
No, ma'am.
Wow. We have focused a lot on how politically motivated the state and local officials can have been when they target our federal officials, but we also need to consider the Biden DOJ's role in all of this that happened. For example, Mr. Epstein, what agency has Congress charged with adjudicating and enforcing federal campaign finance violations?
That's the Federal Election Commission.
All right, and from a congressional perspective, why should every member of this committee care about the proper enforcement and interpretation of a law Congress drafted? Isn't that our role?
Absolutely, they should.
In Mr. Bragg's prosecution, did the Biden DOJ enforce its exclusive jurisdiction?
No. In fact, we know that public integrity section at the Department of Justice has historically prosecuted election crimes. And yet here, they ceded authority to a state prosecutor.
So they allowed a state court to prosecute a former president in a case that the court had no jurisdiction. Is that fair?
Yeah, and it's, Miss Congresswoman, it's even worse because we have a tradition of federal agencies, even if you want to say that federal agencies have expertise in these questions, we certainly know that state courts don't have expertise in kind of federal questions relating to elections.
They wouldn't have developed it because they don't have jurisdiction.
Exactly, and that's the meaning of jurisdiction.
And then when you bring in Mr. Colangelo and his involvement with this, we know that the Biden administration was knee-deep in the prosecution of Mr. Trump in New York, don't we?
Yeah, and in fact, as America First Legal found out, and of course these documents were withheld under privilege protections, but 36 records existed of communications between the District Attorney of New York, that office, and the Attorney General's office. Yet Attorney General Garland came to this committee and said that there were no communications.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein.
Thank you, and I yield back.
But it doesn't stop at state prosecutors. The Biden Department of Justice has also played a key role. They allowed a state prosecutor to go after Trump for alleged federal election crimes, something under the Federal Election Commission's jurisdiction. Even worse, DOJ officials were secretly coordinating with Bragg's office. Attorney General Merrick Garland testified before Congress, claiming no communications, but leaked records tell a different story. Dozens of communications exist between Bragg's office and the Biden DOJ. If you're tired of corruption in our justice system, hit that subscribe button. We expose the truth here, and you don't want to miss what's next. Let's keep going. What does this mean for our country's future? The justice system should be blind, but used as a political weapon, we all lose. This isn't just about Trump, it sets a dangerous precedent. Imagine if this were happening to someone on the left. Would they call it justice? The double standard is obvious. So, lawfare is one of the greatest threats to our democracy. It undermines faith in the legal system and turns our courts into political battlegrounds. This is something every American should be concerned about. What are we going to do about it? Stand up and demand accountability, like share and subscribe to help spread the truth.